My name is Dan, and I am 32 years old. On paper, I am successful with a great job in finance and a nice apartment in Chicago, but my family sees me as nothing more than a walking ATM. For years, they have funneled my money to my younger sister Amanda while I struggled. When I finally got a major promotion, instead of celebrating my success, they demanded I fund her extravagant lifestyle dreams. Before I share this heartbreaking story, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button if you have ever felt taken advantage of by the people who should love you the most. Growing up in a small town in Illinois, our family of four seemed normal from the outside. My father Gerald worked as an accountant at a local firm, while my mother Patricia taught third grade at the elementary school. To neighbors and friends, we were the picture-perfect American family. But inside our home, the dynamics told a different story. From my earliest memories, I noticed the stark difference in how my parents treated Amanda and me. Amanda was 4 years younger, with our mother's blonde hair and bright blue eyes. I took after my father with dark hair and a more serious demeanor. Perhaps that was part of the reason for the favoritism, though I will never know for sure. In elementary school, I excelled academically. I brought home straight, as joined the math club, and even won the regional spelling bee in 5th grade. My achievements were met with nods and brief acknowledgments. "That is what we expect from you, Dan," my father would say, barely looking up from his newspaper. My mother might add, "You are smart, so good grades should come easily to you." When Amanda started school, the contrast became painfully obvious. She struggled with reading and math, often bringing home C's and the occasional B. Yet our parents showered her with praise. "Look how hard she is trying," they would exclaim. Any improvement, no matter how small, warranted celebration dinners and small gifts. I remember sitting at those dinners, picking at my food while everyone fawned over Amanda for achieving what had always been my minimum expectation. My 12th birthday stands out vividly in my memory. I had asked for a new bike since I had outgrown my old one. What I got was a modest party with just 2 friends, a chocolate cake from the grocery store, and a gift card to the local bookstore. My parents explained that money was tight that year, and I should be mature enough to understand. Just 2 months later, Amanda turned 8. Her birthday featured a professional magician, a bounce house in our backyard, and nearly 20 guests. Her presents included a new bicycle, complete with custom paint job, and her name emblazoned on the frame, an expensive dollhouse, and a shopping spree at the mall. When I quietly questioned the disparity, my mother pulled me aside and scolded me for being jealous. "Amanda is more sensitive than you. She needs these things to build her confidence. You should be proud to be the strong one." By 16, I was working at the local grocery store after school and on weekends. My parents had made it clear that if I wanted spending money, I needed to earn it myself. "It builds character," my father would say. Meanwhile, Amanda received a generous weekly allowance for minimal chores around the house. During my junior year of high school, I saved up for months to buy a used car. Nothing fancy, just a 10-year-old Honda Civic with over 100,000 miles on it. I was proud of what I had accomplished through hard work. The same year, Amanda turned 13 and mentioned she might like to take horseback riding lessons. Within a week, my parents had signed her up at an expensive equestrian center 30 miles away. Every Saturday for the next 3 years, one of them would drive her there while I worked my shift at the grocery store. I tried to rationalize their behavior. Maybe Amanda really did need more support. Maybe I was just naturally more independent. Maybe as the firstborn son, it was my responsibility to be self-sufficient so that my sister could thrive. My parents reinforced this narrative, often telling me how proud they were that I never gave them any trouble. "You have always been so easy," my mother would say. "Not like Amanda, who needs more guidance." There were moments when I allowed myself to feel resentment, but I quickly pushed those feelings down. My parents promised that my sacrifices and hard work would pay off in the future. "You are building a strong foundation," my father would tell me. "Your sister needs more help now, but your independence will serve you well later in life." I believed them. I believed that one day my parents would recognize my efforts and show me the same support they had always given Amanda. I believed that my sister would grow out of her neediness and become more self-sufficient. I believed that in the end, everything would balance out fairly. How wrong I was. When it came time for college, I had worked hard enough to earn a partial scholarship to the University of Illinois. It covered about half of my tuition, which was a significant achievement. I remember the day the letter arrived, how my hands shook as I opened it, and the surge of pride I felt seeing the official letterhead with my name and the word, "Congratulations." My parents glanced at the letter and offered a brief, "Good job." Then the conversation immediately turned to how I would cover the remaining costs. There would be no financial help from them, that much was clear from the start. Student loans and continued work would be my path forward. I moved into the cheapest dormitory on campus, a cramped building from the 1962nd, with communal bathrooms and no air conditioning. My roommate Brad was in a similar financial situation, and we bonded over our shared experiences of working multiple jobs while maintaining full course loads. I worked 20 hours per week at the campus bookstore, another 15 hours waiting tables at a local restaurant on weekends, all while taking 18 credit hours each semester in my finance program. Amanda graduated high school 2 years after I started college. Despite her average grades and minimal extracurricular activities, my parents announced they would be sending her to Westfield University, a private school with tuition nearly 3 times what I was paying. Not only would they cover her full tuition, but they also rented her a modern 1-bedroom apartment just off campus. She needs her own space to focus, my mother explained, during a rare phone call to me. I was surviving on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches, often choosing between buying textbooks or getting enough groceries for the week. Meanwhile, my social media feed showed Amanda posting pictures from her fully furnished apartment, complete with new furniture and the latest MacBook Pro. The first time my parents called me for money, I was in my junior year. Amanda's car, a graduation gift from our parents, had broken down. She needed $800 for repairs, and apparently my parents were a bit short this month. I had just received my tax refund of $900, which I had planned to use to finally replace my dying laptop. "Your sister really needs your help, Dan," my mother said. "You know how important that car is for her social life and internship." I transferred the money that same day, telling myself it was a one-time thing. The laptop could wait another semester. My parents and sister were effusive, with their gratitude telling me what a lifesaver I was and how they would make it up to me. That gratitude lasted about a week before things returned to normal with sparse communication, unless they needed something. As I progressed through my finance degree with a minor in economics, I poured myself into my studies. I was determined to secure a good job after graduation, one that would finally give me financial stability. I joined the investment club, networked with alumni, and completed an unpaid internship during my junior year summer, living on credit cards because I could not afford to turn down the opportunity. Amanda, meanwhile, changed her major 3 times, finally settling on fashion merchandising. Her social media showcased weekend trips to New York and Chicago for fashion inspiration, shopping sprees for building her professional wardrobe, and spring break vacations to Miami with friends, all funded by my parents, who still claimed they could not help me with even basic expenses. During my senior year, the calls for financial help became more frequent. Amanda's laptop crashed, $300 she needed. Professional clothing for an interview, $400. Her rent was late due to an accounting error, $700. Each time the request came with the promise that it was just this once, that things would be different going forward. I was working so hard I barely had time to sleep, let alone question these patterns. When doubts did surface, I pushed them away. They were my family. Surely they would do the same for me if our positions were reversed. Besides, I was about to graduate with a degree in finance from a good university. Soon I would have a well-paying job, and these small amounts would not matter. What I did not realize then was that I was not just providing occasional help. I was being conditioned to become the family's financial safety net, their personal ATM that could be accessed whenever Amanda or my parents faced a money shortfall. And those shortfalls, I would learn, would become increasingly frequent and substantial as time went on. After graduation, I landed a position at Morgan Financial Advisors in downtown Chicago. It was not my dream job, but it offered a decent starting salary of $55,000, and more importantly, potential for growth. I moved into a tiny studio apartment in a less desirable neighborhood to keep my living expenses low. Between student loan payments of $700 monthly rent utilities and other basic expenses, I was just breaking even each month. The first few months were a whirlwind of learning new systems, meeting clients, and trying to prove myself in a highly competitive environment. My days started at 6 a.m. and often did not end until 8 or 9 at night. The pressure was intense, but I was determined to succeed. My direct supervisor, Richard, was demanding but fair. He noticed my work ethic and began giving me more responsibility, which I eagerly accepted. Meanwhile, Amanda had graduated with her fashion merchandising degree, but was struggling to find work in her field. According to my parents, she was too talented for entry-level positions but lacked the experience for higher roles. So she remained unemployed, living in the apartment my parents continued to pay for while she networked and built her portfolio. The calls from my parents became even more frequent now that I had a real job. Amanda needed new professional outfits for interviews. Amanda needed money to attend a fashion networking event in Los Angeles. Amanda needed to upgrade her portfolio website with a professional designer. You know how important first impressions are in the fashion industry, my mother would say. This is an investment in her future. I lived on instant noodles and canned soup for weeks at a time to send money home. I wore the same 2 suits to work, rotating shirts and ties to create the illusion of a varied wardrobe. I walked 3 miles to work regardless of Chicago's brutal weather because I could not afford both the subway fare and the money my family requested. One Friday evening, my coworkers invited me to join them for happy hour at a nearby bar. It was the first social invitation I had received, and I was eager to build relationships with my colleagues. But that morning, my father had called about Amanda's laptop dying right before an important interview. She needed a new one, immediately, to the tune of $1,200 for a MacBook that was essential for design work. My entire entertainment budget for the month, along with my emergency fund, went to that purchase. I had to decline the happy hour invitation, making up an excuse about prior commitments. That became a pattern over the next few years. Declined invitations to concerts, weekend trips, even simple dinners with potential friends because whatever discretionary income I had was funneled back to support Amanda's ever-evolving career aspirations. My colleague Tyler once asked why I always brought lunch from home and never joined them at restaurants. Saving for something big, he asked. If only he knew that I was not saving at all. I was simply trying to survive while supporting what felt like a second household. The breaking point of this period came when my closest college friend, Mark, planned a group vacation to Colorado. We had been talking about this trip since sophomore year, a week of hiking and camping in the mountains. The total cost was about $800, including flight and shared accommodations. I had been setting aside $20 from each paycheck for months to make it happen. 2 weeks before the trip, Amanda called me directly, bypassing our parents for the first time. She was in tears, explaining that she had been offered an unpaid internship with a small fashion label. It was her big break, but she needed money for new professional clothing and transportation costs. The amount she needed, $800. I would not ask if it was not important, Dan, she sobbed. This could be my chance to finally start my career. Mom and Dad are tapped out from helping me with rent this month. I canceled my trip that night, forfeiting the $200 deposit, and sent the rest of my vacation fund to Amanda. Mark was understanding but disappointed. You always put your family first, man, he said. I respect that, but sometimes I wonder if they would do the same for you. His words stuck with me, planting a seed of doubt that would eventually grow into the realization that this dynamic was not normal or healthy. Around this time, I started dating Emily, a kindergarten teacher I met through a mutual friend. She was kind, creative, and brought a lightness to my life that I desperately needed. As our relationship progressed, she began to notice the financial strain I was under and the frequent calls from my family. It seems like they only contact you when they need something, she observed carefully after I ended another call with my mother about Amanda's car insurance payment being due. I defended my family, instinctively explaining about Amanda's career struggles and my parents' financial limitations. But Emily's concerned expression told me she was not convinced. Relationships should go both ways, Dan, she said gently. When was the last time they called just to ask how you were doing? I could not remember. Our relationship lasted another 6 months before the constant financial stress and my inability to participate in even moderately expensive activities created an insurmountable rift. When Emily suggested we move in together to save on rent, I panicked at the thought of having to explain why so much of my income disappeared each month to support my sister. The breakup was amicable but painful. Emily deserved someone who could be a full partner, not someone whose financial and emotional resources were constantly drained by family obligations. Alone in my tiny apartment, surrounded by the cheapest furniture I could find, and eating yet another meal of ramen, I began to wonder if this would be my life forever, working endlessly to support myself on the barest minimum while funneling everything extra to my sister and parents. The thought was suffocating, but I saw no way out. 5 years into my career at Morgan Financial Advisors, an unexpected opportunity arose. Our firm had landed a major new client, a tech startup that had just received significant venture capital funding. They needed comprehensive financial planning and investment strategy, and for some reason my supervisor Richard recommended me to lead the account. "You have shown exceptional analytical skills and dedication," he told me. "This client needs someone who can think outside the box while maintaining absolute precision. I believe you are ready for this challenge." The pressure was immense. This client could mean millions in revenue for our firm, and failure would not only damage our reputation, but potentially end my career advancement. For 3 months, I worked nearly around the clock, developing innovative investment strategies tailored to the unique needs of a growing tech company. I researched industry trends, analyzed market projections, and created detailed financial models. I slept on the office couch more nights than I slept in my own bed. The presentation to the client was scheduled for a Monday morning, and I spent the entire weekend beforehand refining every detail, practicing my delivery until I could recite it in my sleep. When the day came, I was exhausted but prepared. The presentation went better than I could have hoped. The client asked challenging questions which I answered confidently, drawing on the extensive research I had done. By the end of the meeting, they were not only impressed but enthusiastic about working with me specifically. 2 weeks later, Richard called me into his office. The client had signed a 3-year contract with our firm, one of the largest in our company's history, and they had specifically requested that I continue as their primary advisor. "This is a game changer for your career," Dan Richards said with a rare smile. "The partners have taken notice. We are promoting you to senior financial advisor with a significant salary increase. You will also receive a percentage of the revenue from this account as a bonus." My salary would more than double to $120,000 annually plus potential bonuses. After 5 years of scraping by, of denying myself even small luxuries, of sending a substantial portion of my income to support my sister's never-ending needs, I was finally going to have financial breathing room. I left Richard's office in a daze, hardly believing the turn my life had taken. That weekend I allowed myself to dream. I could move to a better apartment in a safer neighborhood. I could start seriously saving for retirement. I could even take a vacation, a real one. Not just a long weekend within driving distance. For the first time in my adult life, I felt a sense of possibility, of open doors rather than walls closing in. I celebrated alone in my apartment, with a bottle of champagne I had been saving for a special occasion, sitting on my second-hand couch, and allowing myself to feel genuine pride in what I had accomplished through years of hard work and sacrifice. My colleague Andrew, who had joined the firm around the same time I did, took me out for drinks to celebrate my promotion. Unlike many of our co-workers, Andrew came from a similar background, having worked his way through college and carried student loan debt. He understood the significance of this achievement in a way others might not. To Dan, he toasted, raising his glass. "The hardest working guy I know who finally got the recognition he deserves." After a few drinks, I found myself opening up about my family situation, something I rarely discussed with anyone. I told him about the years of financial support I had provided, the sacrifices I had made, and how little acknowledgement I had received in return. Andrew listened without judgment, but his expression grew increasingly concerned. "Dan," he said, "finally, what you are describing is not normal family support. It sounds like your parents and sister have been taking advantage of you for years." "They are my family," I said automatically, the defense I had always used. "Yes, but family should support each other equally, in whatever ways they can, Andrew replied. When was the last time they supported you emotionally, let alone financially? I had no answer. I have a friend who is a therapist, Andrew said carefully. Dr. Harrison specializes in family dynamics. Maybe talking to someone objective could help you sort through this. Initially, I dismissed the suggestion. Therapy seemed like an overreaction to what I had always viewed as simply fulfilling my family obligations. But Andrew's words stayed with me, and after a particularly demanding call from my mother about Amanda needing money for a fashion industry conference, I found myself making an appointment with Dr. Harrison. The therapist's office was warm and inviting with comfortable chairs and soft lighting. Dr. Harrison himself was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a thoughtful demeanor. He listened attentively as I recounted my family history, occasionally asking clarifying questions, but mostly allowing me to tell my story at my own pace. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment before speaking. Dan, what you are describing is a pattern of emotional and financial exploitation, he said gently. Your family has conditioned you to be their safety net without reciprocating with the support that families typically provide each other. But is not it normal to help family members when they need it, I asked. Absolutely, Dr. Harrison nodded. But healthy family relationships involve mutual support boundaries and recognition of each person's needs and contributions. From what you have described, your needs have consistently been minimized, while your sisters have been prioritized. Over the next few sessions, Dr. Harrison helped me recognize the unhealthy patterns in my family dynamics. He introduced concepts like emotional manipulation, financial abuse, and the importance of setting boundaries. Most importantly, he helped me understand that I was not responsible for my sister's financial well-being, especially at the expense of my own. Your promotion is an opportunity not just for financial growth, but for emotional growth as well, he said. It is a chance to establish new patterns in how you relate to your family. With Dr. Harrison's guidance and Andrew's friendship, I began to see my situation more clearly. I purchased a small but modern one-bedroom condo in a nice neighborhood, my first real investment in my own future. I started building an emergency fund that was for my emergencies, not my sister's. I even began dating again, more confident now in my ability to be a full partner in a relationship. For the first time, I was putting myself first, and it felt both terrifying and liberating. News of my promotion spread quickly on social media after our company newsletter mentioned it, and several colleagues congratulated me online. I had not planned to tell my family right away, wanting to enjoy my success privately, before inevitably fielding requests for money. But that choice was taken from me when my phone rang just days after the announcement was posted. Dan, why did not you tell us about your big promotion? My mother exclaimed, without even saying hello first. We had to hear about it from Aunt Susan, who saw it on Facebook. I was planning to tell you, I said, the familiar guilt already creeping in. Things have been really busy with the new position. Well, we are so proud of you, she continued. Your father and I always knew you would do well in finance. You have always been so good with numbers. For a brief hopeful moment, I thought this call might actually be just about celebrating my achievement. Then came the pivot I should have expected. Actually, the timing of this is perfect. My mother's voice took on the tone I had come to recognize as the prelude to a financial request. Amanda has the most exciting opportunity, and we were just trying to figure out how to make it happen for her. My stomach tightened. What kind of opportunity? She wants to open her own boutique. She has found the perfect little storefront in downtown Springfield. It would showcase local designers as well as some of her own creations. Is not that wonderful? Amanda was now 28 years old and had cycled through 6 different jobs in the fashion industry, none lasting more than 8 months. Her most recent position had been as a sales associate at a high-end department store, which she quit after 3 months because it was stifling her creativity. That sounds like a big undertaking, I said cautiously. Starting a business requires a lot of capital and business knowledge. That is why we are so excited about your promotion, my mother continued, as if I had not spoken. The timing could not be better. Amanda has already created a business plan. She just needs startup capital. How much capital? I asked, already dreading the answer. The storefront needs some renovation. And then there is inventory fixtures marketing. The total comes to about $50,000. But it is an investment, Dan. Once the boutique takes off, she will pay you back with interest. $50,000. Nearly half of my annual salary and more than all my savings combined. The amount was staggering, especially considering Amanda's track record with employment. I do not know, Mom. That is a lot of money, and I have just bought a condo. I have my own expenses to consider. My mother's tone immediately cooled. I thought you would be more supportive of your sister. This is her dream, Dan. After all we have done for you, is it too much to ask that you help Amanda this one time? The familiar guilt tactics. After all we have done for you was a frequent refrain, though what exactly they had done remained nebulous. I had put myself through college, built my career without connections or support, and helped them financially for years. Let me think about it, I said, not ready for the confrontation that outright refusal would bring. Well, do not think too long, my mother replied. The landlord wants an answer on the storefront by the end of the month. We are having a family dinner this Sunday. Come by at 4 and we can discuss all the details. She hung up before I could respond. That Sunday, I drove the 2 hours to my parents' house with a sense of dread. Dr. Harrison and I had discussed strategies for setting boundaries, but facing my family in person would be the real test. When I arrived, it was clear this was not just a family dinner. Amanda had created a full presentation about her boutique concept, complete with mood boards, financial projections, and even a name, Amanda's Atelier. My parents sat beaming with pride as she showed me her plans. The financial projections were wildly optimistic, assuming the boutique would be profitable within 3 months. There was no contingency planning, no realistic assessment of the competitive landscape, and no acknowledgement of Amanda's lack of business experience. It was a fantasy, not a business plan. When the presentation ended, my parents and sister looked at me expectantly. "So what do you think, Amanda?" asked, her eyes bright with excitement. "Are you ready to be part of something amazing?" I took a deep breath. The concept is interesting, but the financial projections seem unrealistic. Most small businesses take years to become profitable if they survive at all. Amanda's face fell and my mother immediately jumped in. "Dan, why do you have to be so negative? This is your sister's dream. She has worked so hard on this plan." "I am not being negative," I replied, struggling to keep my voice even. "I am being realistic. Starting a business is risky under the best circumstances, and $50,000 is a significant investment." "Investment is the right word," my father interjected. "This is an investment in your sister's future. As her brother, you should want to support her success." "I do want her to succeed," I said, "but I also have to consider my own financial security. I have just bought a property. I have student loans to repay." "Always about you is not it," Amanda interrupted, tears forming in her eyes. "You have a great job and make tons of money now. I am just asking for help to get started. You owe this to me and to our parents, after everything they have done for you." There it was again. The claim that I somehow owed them, that my success belonged not to me, but to my family, despite years of evidence to the contrary. "What exactly do I owe you for?" I asked quietly. The room went silent. My parents exchanged glances. "We raised you," my father said finally. "We put a roof over your head, food on the table. We supported your education." "I worked my way through college," I reminded him. "I took out student loans that I am still paying off. Meanwhile, you paid for Amanda's entire education at a private university." "That was different," my mother insisted. "Amanda needed that specific program for her career path." "And I did not need support for mine?" I asked. "Do you have any idea how hard it was to work multiple jobs while maintaining a full course load? Or how many opportunities I missed because I could not afford to take unpaid internships or networking trips?" "You have always been more independent," my mother said dismissively. "Amanda is sensitive and needs more support." "She is 28 years old," I pointed out. "At what point does she become responsible for her own financial well-being?" Amanda burst into tears. "I cannot believe you are being so cruel. This is my one chance to make something of myself." My father put his arm around her. "Dan, we have already told the family about Amanda's boutique. Everyone is so excited for her. Your aunt and uncle are even planning to invest a small amount. We told them you would be providing the majority of the startup costs, since you just got that big promotion. I sat back, stunned. They had already told the extended family that I would fund this venture without even asking me first. The manipulation was breathtaking in its audacity. So you just assumed I would hand over $50,000, I asked. You did not think you needed my agreement before telling everyone I would be funding this. You are family, my mother said, as if that explained everything. Family supports each other. Your sister needs this chance, and you have the means to provide it. Why is this even a question? The familiar pressure closed in around me, the expectation that I would once again sacrifice my own needs and financial security for Amanda's latest whim. But this time something was different. This time I had Dr. Harrison's voice in my head reminding me that I deserved to prioritize my own well-being. And I had finally reached my breaking point. I stood up slowly, gathering my thoughts. Years of suppressed frustration and resentment threatened to explode, but I forced myself to remain calm. This was too important to derail with uncontrolled emotion. I need to clarify something, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. I am not going to fund this boutique. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother recovered first. Dan, be reasonable. This is not some frivolous request. This is Amanda's career we are talking about. I understand that, I replied. But I am not in a position to invest $50,000 in a high-risk venture with no guaranteed return. That represents nearly all of my savings. But you just got a huge promotion, Amanda protested. You can afford this. My promotion does not erase years of financial struggle, I explained. Do you know that I have been helping our parents support you financially since I was in college? Amanda looked confused. What are you talking about? I turned to my parents. Have you never told her about all the times you called me for money when she needed something? The car repairs, the rent payments, the new laptops and clothes for interviews. My mother had the grace to look uncomfortable, but my father doubled down. Those were just small amounts to help your sister through rough patches. This is different. Small amounts add up, I said. In the past 7 years, I have sent over $30,000 to support Amanda. That is $30,000 I could have used to pay down my student loans, to build my own financial security, to occasionally enjoy the money I worked so hard to earn. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, scrolling through years of transfers. $800 for car repairs in my junior year of college. $1,200 for a new laptop when I was just starting my career and could barely pay my own rent. $700 for her apartment security deposit. $300 for professional clothing. The list goes on and on. My sister looked genuinely shocked. I had no idea you were the one sending that money. Mom and Dad always said they were helping me. They were helping you by asking me for money, I clarified. Money that I often could not afford to give, but did anyway, because I was told it was my responsibility as the successful older brother. I turned back to my parents. Do you know that I lived on ramen noodles for months at a time so I could send money home? That I walked to work in Chicago winters because I could not afford both public transportation and the money you requested? That I lost a relationship with someone I cared about because I could never afford to do normal couple activities? My mother's eyes filled with tears. We did not know it was such a hardship for you. You never said anything. Would it have mattered if I did? I asked. Every time I hesitated or questioned a request, I was reminded of my duty to family and made to feel selfish for considering my own needs. But we paid for your childhood, my father argued. We put you through school. No, you did not, I corrected him. I put myself through school with scholarships, student loans, and working multiple jobs. Meanwhile, you paid for Amanda's entire education at a private university that cost 3 times what mine did. You bought her a car while I saved for years to buy a used one. You rented her an apartment while I lived in the cheapest dorm available. The uncomfortable truth hung in the air between us. For the first time, I was laying bare the years of financial disparity and unfairness. I have never asked you for anything, I continued. Not when I was struggling through college, not when I was living paycheck to paycheck in my first apartment, not even when I needed emergency dental surgery and put it on a credit card because I could not afford to pay for it outright. I have been entirely self-sufficient while simultaneously serving as a financial safety net for this family. Amanda wiped her tears away, her expression changing from hurt to anger. "So what are you saying? That you will not help me at all? That you do not care about my dreams?" "I care about your dreams," I assured her. "But I am not responsible for funding them, especially not at the expense of my own financial security and future." My father's face hardened. "If this is how you feel, perhaps we need to reevaluate our family relationship. We raised you to care about family above all else. Clearly we failed in that regard." The threat was clear: either fund Amanda's boutique or risk being cut off from the family. A year ago, that threat would have been devastating enough to make me reconsider regardless of the financial hardship. But now, after months of therapy with Dr. Harrison and friendship with Andrew, who showed me what healthy support actually looked like, I saw it for what it was: manipulation. "I do care about family," I said quietly. "But caring about family should not mean sacrificing my own well-being entirely. It should not be a one-way street where I give and give while receiving nothing in return." "Nothing in return," my mother echoed incredulously. "We have given you our love and support your entire life." "Have you?" I asked, the question hanging in the air. "When was the last time you called me just to ask how I was doing, not to request money? When have you ever acknowledged my achievements without immediately following up with a request? When have you ever prioritized my needs the way you have?" "Always prioritized Amanda's." The silence that followed was answer enough. "I love you all," I said, gathering my jacket, "and I want to have a relationship with you. But it needs to be a healthy relationship based on mutual respect and support, not one where I am valued only for my financial contributions. If you walk out that door without agreeing to help your sister," my father said, his voice hard, "do not bother coming back." The ultimatum hung in the air between us. I looked at my father, then at my tearful mother, and finally at Amanda, whose expression had shifted from anger to something more complex. "I am sorry you feel that way," I said, my voice steady despite the pain in my chest. "When you are ready to have a relationship that is not contingent on my financial support, I will be here." I walked out, got into my car, and drove away, tears finally spilling down my cheeks once I was alone. But beneath the pain was something unexpected: relief. For the first time in my adult life, I had set a boundary with my family and stood my ground. Whatever happened next, I knew I had finally chosen my own well-being. That night I called Dr. Harrison and recounted the confrontation. He listened patiently, offering support and perspective. "What you did today took incredible courage," he said. "Setting boundaries with family is among the hardest things we do, especially when those relationships have been unhealthy for a long time. My father basically disowned me." I said, the reality of it still sinking in. "That was his choice," Dr. Harrison reminded me. "A choice made to try to control you through emotional manipulation. The question now is, what do you choose for yourself going forward?" Andrew also provided unwavering support, inviting me to dinner at his apartment the following weekend and listening as I processed my conflicting emotions. "You know what the craziest part is," I told him. "Despite everything, I still feel guilty. Like maybe I should have just given them the money to keep the peace." "That is how emotional manipulation works," Andrew said. "They installed those guilt buttons in you over decades. It will take time to disable them. But you made the right choice, Dan. Your family needs to learn that you are a person worthy of respect and consideration, not just a walking ATM." For the first time, I began to believe that might be true. 3 months passed without contact from my family. The silence was both painful and freeing. Without the constant drain of their financial demands and emotional manipulation, I found myself with more energy and resources than I had experienced in years. I continued my sessions with Dr. Harrison, working through the complex emotions of setting boundaries with family and learning to prioritize my own well-being without guilt. I joined a support group for adults from dysfunctional families where I met others with similar experiences. Hearing their stories helped me recognize that my situation was not unique and that the path to healing, while difficult, was possible. "Recovery is not linear," one group member named Thomas shared during a particularly impactful session. "There will be days when you question your decisions, when the guilt feels overwhelming. But over time, those days become fewer and the clarity becomes stronger." He was right. Some mornings I would wake up reaching for my phone muscle memory, urging me to check if my parents had called, a hollow feeling in my chest when I remembered the estrangement. Other days I reveled in the freedom of making decisions based solely on my own needs and desires, of saving for my own future, without the expectation that those savings would be claimed by someone else. I focused on building a life that felt authentic and fulfilling. I redecorated my condo, creating a space that reflected my tastes and preferences. I joined a hiking group, spending weekends exploring trails around Chicago. I even took a cooking class, learning to prepare meals more satisfying than the instant noodles that had sustained me for so many years. 6 months after the confrontation, I met Melissa at a friend's dinner party. She was a pediatric physical therapist with a quick laugh and thoughtful questions. Our connection was immediate and easy, without the constant undercurrent of financial stress that had sabotaged my previous relationships. As we grew closer, I cautiously shared the situation with my family. Instead of judgment or pressure to reconcile at any cost, Melissa offered understanding and support. "Family relationships should add to your life, not diminish it," she said one evening as we walked along Lake Michigan. "My parents taught me that love means wanting the best for someone, not what you can get from them." Her family welcomed me warmly during holidays and celebrations, showing me what healthy family dynamics could look like. Her father, a retired teacher, took genuine interest in my career without any underlying agenda. Her mother called just to chat, remembering details about my life and following up on stories I had shared previously. It was a revelation, this family that supported each other unconditionally, that celebrated achievements without immediately making demands. 6 months into our estrangement, I received an unexpected text from Amanda. "Can we talk? Just the two of us." We met at a coffee shop halfway between Chicago and our hometown. The Amanda who greeted me seemed different from the entitled sister I had known. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes, and a newfound seriousness in her expression. "I got a job," she said after we had settled with our coffees, "as an assistant manager at a boutique in Springfield. Not my dream job, but it is steady, and I am learning a lot about the business side of fashion." "That is great," I said, genuinely pleased for her. "How are you liking it?" "It is hard work," she admitted. "Long hours dealing with difficult customers, but also rewarding in a way I did not expect. For the first time, I am earning my own money, making my own decisions." She took a deep breath. "I owe you an apology, Dan. After you left that day, I started thinking about everything you said, about all the money you sent over the years, money I never knew came from you, about how differently Mom and Dad treated us. It was not your fault," I said. "You were raised to expect that support." Maybe she acknowledged. "But I am an adult now. I should have questioned why everything came so easily to me while you were struggling. I should have asked why Mom and Dad always had money for my projects but claimed poverty when it came to helping you." Her eyes filled with tears. The boutique idea was unrealistic. "I see that now that I am actually working in the industry. I would have lost your money and probably ended up right back where I started, expecting more help." The admission stunned me. This self-awareness was entirely new for Amanda. "What happened after I left?" I asked. "At first, Mom and Dad were furious. Dad especially. He kept saying you had abandoned the family, that you were selfish and ungrateful." She stirred her coffee absently. "But then about a month later, I found all the bank statements. I was looking for some tax documents and came across a folder with records of all the transfers from your account over the years." She looked up at me. "I had no idea, Dan. No idea how much you had given us, how often, starting when you were barely making anything yourself. It made me question everything." Amanda explained that she had confronted our parents with the evidence, demanding to know why they had hidden the truth from her, and consistently portrayed me as the financially secure one who could afford to help. "They did not have a good answer," she said. "Just kept saying that you were better with money, that you did not need as much help, that family helps family. But seeing those amounts, knowing what you must have sacrificed, it changed something in me." She had moved out of the apartment our parents had been subsidizing and found a smaller place she could afford on her new salary. She had started making her own financial decisions, including setting up a budget and saving plan for the first time in her life. "I will not lie, it has been hard," she admitted. "I've had to learn lessons at 28 that you somehow figured out at 18, but it also feels good to be standing on my own 2 feet." We talked for hours, clearing the air about decades of resentment and misunderstanding. Amanda apologized repeatedly for her role in the family dynamic, for the entitlement she had displayed, and for never recognizing my struggles. "I want to have a relationship with you, Dan," she said, as we prepared to leave. "A real one based on being siblings who support each other equally, not just you supporting me. It might take time to figure out what that looks like, but I am willing to try if you are." I agreed, cautiously optimistic about building a new kind of relationship with my sister. We set clear boundaries, no financial support in either direction, unless it was a true, emergency regular check-ins that focused on emotional connection rather than material needs, and a commitment to honesty, even when it was uncomfortable. My parents were a different story. Despite Amanda's urging, they maintained that I had betrayed the family by refusing to fund her boutique. My father still refused to speak to me, while my mother occasionally sent text messages that alternated between guilt trips and surface-level pleasantries. I responded politely, but briefly, maintaining the boundaries I had established. Dr. Harrison helped me accept that not all relationships can be healed, especially when the other parties are unwilling to acknowledge harmful patterns or make changes. Sometimes the healthiest thing we can do is accept that a relationship will remain distant or limited, he said. That does not mean you failed, or that you do not love your parents. It means you are respecting both their choices and your own need for a healthy life. A year after the confrontation, I received another promotion at work, becoming one of the youngest division heads in the company's history. Melissa and I moved in together, combining our resources to purchase a beautiful 3-bedroom house in a neighborhood with excellent schools, planning for the future we hoped to build together. Amanda came to our housewarming party, bringing a thoughtful gift she had saved for months to purchase. My parents were invited but declined to attend. While their absence held a certain sadness, it no longer defined my happiness or sense of self-worth. The most profound lesson I learned through this journey was that love should never require the erasure of self. Real love, whether in family relationships or romantic ones, involves mutual support, respect for boundaries, and recognition of each person's individual needs and dreams. I also learned that standing up for yourself, while painful in the moment, can lead to greater authenticity and joy in the long run. The temporary discomfort of conflict is often worth the lasting peace that comes from living in alignment with your own values and needs. Finally, I learned that family is not just about blood relations, but about the connections we nurture with those who truly see and value us. The family I have built with Melissa, with friends like Andrew, and even with the renewed, healthier relationship with Amanda, provides the support and love I always longed for. If you have ever felt exploited by the people who should love you most, know that you are not alone. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary for your well-being and for creating relationships based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family challenges and building a life on your own terms. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, sometimes saying no to others is the only way to say yes to yourself.